Have you ever had a seller say, no assignments allowed? Have you ever made a $40,000 spread and thought, I don't really want to advertise that? Have you ever operated in a state where assignments feel like walking through regulatory landmines? Then you need to understand double closings. But here's the truth. Double closings done wrong can be just as dangerous as sloppy assignments. Welcome to video 3 in my 3-part video series where I'm breaking down my fully rebuilt 2026 regulation-friendly wholesale contract suite. In video 1, we covered the AB agreement between you and the seller. In video 2, we covered the assignment agreement between you and your end buyer. And today, we're covering the BC agreement, the contract between you and your end buyer when you double close your deal. And remember, double closing is not a loophole, it's a strategy. And like any strategy, it needs to be documented correctly. In this video, I'm gonna walk through every clause so that you understand not just how to fill it out, but how to protect yourself and stay compliant in today's regulatory environment. All that and more coming up.
This video is brought to you by the 100% Funding System, a program where Jerry Norton funds 100% of your deals with his money. To learn more, go to usejerryscash.com.
Quick disclaimer before we get started, real estate laws and wholesale regulation vary by state and change frequently. You are responsible for ensuring compliance wherever you transact. Before using any of my contracts, consult a licensed real estate attorney in your state where you transact. Now, these documents are provided for educational purposes only, and I assume no liability for their use. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's dig in and be sure to stay to the end. I'm going to show you how to get this exact contract for free. Okay, first, remember, this agreement is used when you are double closing, not assigning your contract. That distinction changes everything because in a double closing, you buy the property from the seller, A to B, then you resell the property to your end buyer, B to C. You actually take title in a double closing. That's a key difference. In an assignment, you transfer contractual rights. In a double close, you become the owner, even if only for a few minutes. By the way, that means in order to do a double closing transaction, you need short-term, same-day or next-day funding called transactional funding, and my company provides 100% funding for double closing deals. I'll even fund your first double closing deal for free. To learn more, go to usejerryscash.com. Anyways, the way to structure a double closing changes how regulation applies. But here's the mistake that people make. They assume double closings remove disclosure obligations. It doesn't. It simply changes which disclosures are required and why. So let's briefly talk about why the BC contract is structured differently. Since the BC agreement is not an assignment, there is no equitable interest transfer language. There is no assignment disclosure. There is no assignment fee. This is a standard purchase and sale agreement because at this stage, you are the seller, but we still need to structure it carefully because even though you're taking title, you are still operating in a regulated environment. So let's walk through my BC contract clause by clause. The contract starts out by identifying the parties. In this agreement, you are the seller and your end buyer is the buyer. That's important because you are no longer acting as a contract assignor. You are selling property you own, even if you only own it for a few minutes. This removes assignment language entirely and eliminates confusion about equitable interest, giving it a clean structure and clean positioning. Clause number 1 defines the property being conveyed. This needs to match exactly what you acquired in your AB closing. No creative wording, no vague descriptions. This is now a real property transfer, not a contractual transfer, so accuracy matters. Clause 2 outlines the purchase price and payment structure. This is where your spread is built in. The difference between your AB purchase price and the BC resale price is your profit. Now notice something, there is no assignment fee. There is simply a resale price. That's one of the strategic benefits of double closing. Your profit is embedded in the resale, not disclosed as a line item fee. Okay, clause 3 covers earnest money, and just because this isn't an assignment doesn't mean earnest money becomes less important. In fact, it becomes more important. The reason why is because now you are on the hook. If your BC buyer fails to close, you still have your AB obligation. This agreement requires earnest money is deposited promptly, held by escrow, applied towards the purchase price, and structured as liquidated damages. You are no longer protecting your assignment fee, you are protecting your ownership risk. That's a different level of exposure. Clause 4 is proof of funds. Now, this is one of the biggest differences between a smooth double close and a deal that blows up in a double closing. Timing is tight. If your end buyer can't fund, you could get stuck holding the bag, especially if your AB is already scheduled. So this clause requires the buyer provide proof of funds within a set number of hours, and it makes it a material default if they don't. If you can't prove that they can close, they're not your buyer. Now, clause number 5 is default, and it's designed to solve the number one pain point in double closings, buyer non-performance. If the buyer materially fails to close without lawful excuse, you can terminate and retain the earnest money as liquidated damages. And here's the key. This clause includes advance written escrow instructions authorizing escrow to release the earnest money to you if the buyer defaults. That matters because some title companies won't release funds without both parties signing. This clause is designed to reduce that friction while not overriding any mandatory statutory cancellation rights, so it keeps you protected. Clause number 6 covers the inspection period. This gives your buyer a defined window. If you give your buyer an inspection period, make sure it's reasonable and aligns with your AB timeline so you're not stuck with a BC buyer canceling after you've already committed to closing. Also notice the earnest money handling language. If they cancel during inspection, EMD is dispersed according to written instructions or applicable law, so it's clean and escrow friendly. Clause number 7 appoints the escrow agent and authorizes them to run the closing. This matters because double closings require an escrow agent that can actually handle back-to-back transactions. And it also authorizes escrow to prepare any required state transfer documents like an affidavit of property value using the purchase price in the agreement. This is one of those boring clauses that prevents closing day surprises. Okay, clause number 8 is the double close reality clause that is essential. It sets the closing date, but it also discloses the truth. I, as the seller in this BC agreement, intend to acquire title first under my AB agreement and then immediately convey title to the end buyer. And here's the legal protection. My obligation to convey title is contingent upon me successfully acquiring title. If I can't acquire title, this agreement terminates and earnest money is handled according to applicable law. Now, this clause is what keeps you from being in breach of your BC when AB doesn't close. It aligns the structure with how double closings actually work. Clause number 9 stresses the importance of timing. This matters because a double closing is a timing game. Deadlines are real. Delays can break funding, break closings, and create domino effects. This clause reinforces that dates aren't suggestions, they're commitments. Okay, clause 10 covers extensions. If the buyer wants more time and you're able to extend your AB contract and you agree in writing, they deposit an extension fee with escrow. It's non-refundable and it follows the same default rules as the EMD unless you both agree otherwise in writing. This is simple. If the buyer needs more time, it should cost them something because time costs you risk. Clause number 11 covers closing costs and fee allocation. You check the box that matches the deal. Customary split, even split, buyer pays or seller pays. And it clarifies lien payoffs that are required to deliver clear title, such as mortgage liens, IRS liens, judgments, or delinquent taxes. This clause prevents the wait, who pays for what drama right before closing. Okay, clause number 12 covers delivery, and it's one of the most important protection clauses in the whole BC contract. It defines closing as the deed recorded plus funding. It gives the buyer the right to review and approve title commitment, but it also requires title objections to be reasonable, curable, and not interfere with the seller's ability to close the underlying AB acquisition. So you're giving the buyer legitimate protection without letting them sabotage the deal over minor objections. It also includes a major double close safeguard. If the seller can't acquire or convey title, the buyer's sole remedy is to return the earnest money, and the buyer weighs specific performance in that circumstance. That's what makes this workable in a back-to-back closing structure. Clause 13 handles prorations of taxes, rents, security deposits, and so on as of closing. If there's a tenant security deposit and a prepaid rents, those are assigned to the buyer subject to law. This clause makes the financial handoff clean and fair. Clause 14 covers principal capacity, and this is a compliance and liability clause. It states the seller is acting as a principal, not a broker, agent, or fiduciary. And it also states the seller is not representing value, resale price, rental income, or profitability. That's huge because once you become the seller in a BC transaction, you don't want the buyer claiming that you advertised them or represented some kind of return. Clause 15 reinforces no reliance. The buyer acknowledges they did independent due diligence and did not rely on the seller for value, condition, repair cost, resale potential, or market conditions. This is how you reduce lawsuit risk from disappointed buyers. Clause 16 says the buyer cannot assign this agreement without your written consent. This matters because you don't want your end buyer turning around and trying to wholesale your deal while you're coordinating a double close. This keeps control of the transaction in your hands. Clause 17 says that you will convey marketable title at closing free of monetary liens and encumbrances except permitted encumbrances. This is the standard expectation in a real estate sale, and it keeps the buyer confident that they're getting clean ownership. Clause 18 is marketing restrictions. The buyer cannot advertise, market, assign, or offer the property or this agreement for sale prior to closing without your written consent. This is important because in a double closing, the buyer is buying the property, not your contractual rights. It also lets the seller continue marketing until the agreement is fully executed, and then the seller must stop marketing once it's signed unless it terminates. This clause prevents confusion, protects your timeline, and reduces deal interference. Clause 19 is a big one. The buyer agrees not to file a lis pendens or similar instrument. This prevents the buyer from clouding title if they get upset or try to create leverage. It protects your ability to close cleanly and keeps disputes from turning into a title nightmare. Clause 20 says the contract is governed by the laws of the state where the property is located. Simple but necessary. Clause 21 says this is the entire agreement and it supersedes prior discussions. That means if it's not in writing here, it doesn't exist. Clause 22 is severability. If one clause is deemed unenforceable, the rest survives. This is the legal don't let one issue kill the whole deal clause. And finally, clause 23 is your custom section. This is where you add deal-specific terms like HOA specifics, occupancy terms, special closing instructions, or really anything unique to the deal. If it matters, put it in writing. Okay, that's the BC agreement. Again, if you want my full 2026 contract pack with my AB agreement, the assignment agreement, the BC double close agreement, plus the state-specific rider packet, drop a comment and say, Jerry, you're a flipping genius. Send me the regulation compliant contract pack. And I'll send you the link. And again, if you're doing a double closing, then transactional funding is required. To learn how to use my 100% funding for your double closings, register for a free training, go to usejerryscash.com. I hope you enjoyed this 3-part video series, and I'll see you on the next video.